Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about NFL Week 9 predictions based on analytics. Normally in the past, I did individual videos looking at each matchup. This week, because this has kind of been a short week for me in terms of getting all the data compiled and all the other sort of legwork, if you will, I decided to just kind of post all the information here so you have it at your disposal. But I also want to take this video as a general guide for what the data is and the significance of the data that I'm presenting today. So if you're new to the channel and new to the work that I do, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So first off, I want to talk about probably the best predictor of wins in NFL from a statistical standpoint is margin of victory, or MOV, as is seen on the chart here. Based on MOV, and this is just home and away data, teams that have a 100 to 95 margin of victory and play at home typically win 97% of the time. 90 teams that are in the 95 to 90 range of margin of victory win about 90% of the time at home. 90 to 85 score 84%, 85 to 80, 82%, 80 to 75, 75%, and so on and so forth as the rest of the data goes on. On top of that, when you look at away data, you can see that typically upsets happen on the road, even in the NFL. Upsets happen on the road, where if you are a team that has a 100 to 95 margin of victory score, you only have an 89% chance of winning on the road. And that doesn't really matter what team you are. You have a very highly likelihood, maybe not highly likelihood, but less chance of winning on the road than you do at home, as is demonstrated by having a 55 to 50 MOV. You only have a 39% chance. So if you're an evenly matched team playing another team that's pretty much on the same level as you, and you're playing at their house, very likely you're going to lose that football game. So what does the rest of this data mean? Well, the rest of the data here, the 26 plus, 20 plus, 15 plus, 12 plus, 9 plus, 7 plus, 5 plus, 3 plus, 1 plus, just deals with how big the score is at the end of the game. So how often, so for example, a team that is 100 to 95 in terms of margin of victory, typically they score 15 plus points 51% of the time. And they typically win by at least 1.89% of the time, but they only win by 15 plus points 51% of the time. So essentially a little bit better than a coin flip. So that's just basically what this other sort of information is, if you're kind of confused by that. But with all that stuff out of the way, hopefully I explain this the best as I can, is that, again, the best predictor for predicting games based on statistics is margin of victory. We get to the actual games this week. KC, Chicago, Chargers, Jets, Rams, Colts, New England, Green Bay, San Francisco, New Orleans, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh all are favored to win this week. You can kind of discard Pittsburgh because this video obviously came out after Thursday Night Football, so you can kind of throw that out if you want. I'm okay with that. But this is basically how the data looks this week when it comes to win percentage for the most part. And you can kind of refer to those other charts back there to get a better idea of what the other sort of numbers in this chart means. The last thing I want to look at before we end this video, it deals specifically with the other sort of data points that I've talked about in videos prior. So offensive score percentage, turnover percentage, sack percentage, defensive offensive score percentage, defensive turnover percentage, and defensive sack percentage. The chart you're looking at right here basically takes all these statistics and subtracts them from the opposing opponent, and then compares all that data on every single team since the 2013 season. I'm going to work to expand it further, but this is just to 2013, at least based on the data you're looking at right now. Offensive score percentage, turnover ratio, sack percentage, and all that sort of stuff is basically comparing it to teams since 2013. You can look at this as you will, if that makes any sense. Like basically you can take from this as you want, but basically it just gives you a general readout of how much better the teams are in terms of the ability to score points, the ability to create turnovers, sacks and sack prevention, and all those other sort of areas, if you will. So this is just sort of a general way of giving you an idea of how these teams kind of stack up in terms of other sort of data points or statistics to kind of give that idea. The only thing to remember again is that margin of victory is by far the biggest predictor of wins from a statistical standpoint in the NFL. That is the best way to predict who wins and who loses. But it is fun to kind of look at if something like a turnover ratio, if a sack percentage, if these other sort of things can have an effect on the ultimate outcomes. And I'll get to a Super Bowl video when we get closer to the Super Bowl, kind of telling you how even if a team is favored by margin of victory, things like sacks, things like turnovers, strength of schedule, stuff that I'm not really getting into right now, are things that definitely can have an impact on ultimate outcomes of games. Not as significant as margin of victory, but definitely something to kind of look into. So again, this is all the data for this week. If you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions are in the description. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Jimmetrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.